Collimating is one of the most difficult and most important parts about owning a Newtonian telescope. In this video, we're going to go through the steps needed to achieve a good collimation so that you can get the best performance out of your telescope. Newtonian telescopes were invented by Isaac Newton, unsurprisingly, around 1600, and have been in fashion since because the use of a concave mirror is much cheaper to manufacture than a lens at the front. So, some anatomy. A Newtonian telescope has two mirrors, one in the back, I can show you. It's concave so that it actually focuses light that comes in from the front. That light bounces back here and then hits a secondary mirror which shoots it out the side so we can see it with an eyepiece. Now Newtonians are great, but they also have some drawbacks, namely that we have to collimate them every once in a while. In the words of the famed astrophotographer Thierry Legault, collimation is as important as the tuning of a musical instrument. The images given by a misaligned telescope can be as bad as the sound given by an out-of-tune piano. This means that basically every night before observing, we have to realign this primary mirror so that we can get the best performance out of the telescope. Usually that's all we need to do, but sometimes if the telescope has been badly knocked about during transit or if someone's fiddled with it, the secondary mirror might also need adjusting. This video we're going to go through a whole collimation of both mirrors with live views through the focuser tube so that you can see exactly what's going on inside the telescope. For adjusting the primary mirror, you will generally only need a Phillips head screwdriver if your telescope has locking screws like mine does. If not, then you'll only need your hands to turn these knobs and some patience. For the secondary mirror, we're going to need the same Phillips head screwdriver and a hex wrench, which fits the little adjusting screws right here in the spider vane. And then finally, we're going to need a piece of paper so that we can tell the difference between the secondary mirror and the tube. If done right, a full collimation for a beginner should only take around 30 minutes. This procedure also requires that your primary mirror is center dotted. That means there's a small little donut indicating the exact center of the mirror. If not, there's a link in the description for how you can do that yourself. For a full collimation today, we're going to start by roughly aligning this primary mirror so that it is looking essentially right back at the focuser tube. After that, the second step is going to be adjusting the secondary mirror so that it gets all the light from the primary mirror. And then thirdly, we're just going to readjust the primary mirror just like in step one. And finally, we're going to take it outside and fine-tune the alignment with the primary mirror using a star alignment. That last step is all you usually need before observing every night, if the secondary mirror is already aligned. If not, then you'll have to do a full collimation. Before step one, we're going to find a window or some kind of bright background and position the telescope horizontally, like this, so that the open end is facing it. The reason it's horizontal is to prevent any sort of tools or nuts and bolts from falling down the tube and hitting the primary and potentially scratching it. Take off any dust covers or eyepieces. I don't have any on right now, but you want to take them off so that we can get light in from the front and look through the focuser tube without any obstruction. Alright, let's start collimating. So first I've pointed it towards the window so we can get some light going in. And secondly, I'm going to take this small little slip of paper, push it inside right behind the secondary mirror. And I hope you can see that we've created a sort of background for the mirror to contrast against. Alright, so the first step is going to be aligning this primary mirror so that it points directly back into the focuser tube. You can probably tell that this telescope is very out of collimation, and I've done that just to exaggerate what you need to do. So to start, if you have any of these locking screws, you're going to want to unscrew them first. And then, once you've done that, you can go ahead and look inside the focuser and look where the center dot of the primary mirror is on that spider vane that I'm sort of circling here. If you can see, it's definitely out of center, and what we're going to be doing is moving that towards the center by adjusting these knobs here. The next step is the most involved and typically the most time-consuming. According to Vladimir Sacek in his article on Newtonian collimation, The difficulty in aligning optical elements of the Newtonian reflector arises from its diagonally oriented flat mirror, otherwise known as the secondary. To get good control, I recommend using one hand to hold the mount of the secondary, using the other to manipulate the tools and adjustment screws, and then being in a position where you can look down the focuser as I am. Be sure not to actually touch the surface of the mirror with your fingers, as you can smudge it. Alright, now the second step is going to be aligning the secondary mirror so that we get all of the light coming in from the primary. Now to start off, we're going to make sure that the secondary mirror is correctly adjusted in the forward and backwards direction. And if you can see, hopefully you can see on the camera, that the secondary mirror is actually too far in this way and it needs to come out. So to start, we're going to need to loosen the screws that hold the secondary mirror in. And for me, that's going to be, I'm going to need a 3mm metric hex screw. You use whatever fits your style of secondary mirror. So I'm just loosening these until you can see that I can rotate it now. Now I'm going to need a screwdriver to actually bring this all the way out. Alright, now that the secondary mirror is in the correct position front to back, we're going to rotate it like this so that it is essentially just pointing in the right direction. And now that that's done, the final step is going to be adjusting the primary mirror using these 3 adjusting screws so that it's all centered within the secondary mirror. So all you have to do is loosen some of them, tighten some of them, and you can eventually get the image in the right place. The next step is just like step 1. We're going to adjust the primary mirror using its knobs to bring the center dot back to the image of the focuser tube. I typically just look for the image of my eye and twist whatever of these knobs brings the center dot towards my eye. Once this is done, congrats! Your telescope is roughly collimated. Now, just tighten these locking screws again with your Phillips head screwdriver and wait for nightfall. As soon as you can see a star, you can begin the process of fine-tuning your collimation. This is the part that is typically done every time you observe. First, you want to point your telescope at a visible star in the sky with normal to high magnification. Gary Saronic, in his guide to No Tools Collimation, recommends using an eyepiece with about the same focal length as the focal ratio of your telescope. Here I have an f9, so I would use about a 9mm eyepiece. I would avoid using a planet or a far-off street lamp as a star substitute, as these aren't pinpoints of light like stars. Next, you're going to adjust the focus so that the star doesn't appear as a pinpoint, but instead as a small donut. If your primary is not perfectly collimated, the donut will appear somewhat asymmetrical. You should also notice that if you re-aim the scope like this, the shape of the donut will change. Your goal is now to find the point where the shape of the donut is perfectly symmetrical by re-aiming the telescope. Once you've found that, you can loosen these locking screws and adjust the knobs until the image of that symmetrical donut is exactly in the center of your field of view. I'm not doing this live because I found it impossible with the camera and telescope combination. The field of view is just too small. So I'm using some pictures from people who have done this procedure before. Finally, you're going to adjust the scope's focus so that the donut becomes a little bit smaller. This makes errors more noticeable. You can repeat this process of defocusing and then readjusting until you're satisfied with your collimation. Tighten the locking screws and you're done. You should now notice that stars are more point-like, planets are more detailed, and deep sky objects are more visible than ever before. If you come back the next day and stars seem to have a tail or are sort of off, then the telescope is likely out of collimation and you'll need to redo the last step. With some practice, collimating your telescope can be as quick and easy as getting outside in the first place. Thank you for watching.